Hi, this is Pat Johnson, your sociology instructor. In this mini lecture, we're going to look at the concepts of statuses and roles and how they relate to social interaction in everyday life. The term status in sociology just means a social position that a person holds. Right now, if you're my student, one of your statuses is that of student. But you hold a lot of other statuses in your life. You might be a friend, you might be a father or a mother. You could be a son or daughter. You could be an employer or an employee. You have a lot of statuses in your status set. So your status set is that group of all the statuses you hold. Your master status is the most important status you hold. And what you think of as your master status may be different from how other people see your master status. Let's take a look. Here's a picture of me in the middle with what I consider some of my more important statuses in my life. Certainly one of my statuses, one of the social positions that I hold, is that of teacher. But I'm also a dog mom, a cat mom too. I'm the daughter to my parents. I'm a Christian, specifically I'm a Catholic. I'm at this point in time, a fiance to my boyfriend. And I'm a little sister to my siblings. All of these are different statuses in my status set. Now, most students see my master status as that of teacher. Our master status is often our occupation, especially if it's more than, let's say, a minimum wage occupation. Maybe something that we went to school for and is very important to us. So while my students would see teacher as my master status, I actually think of my Christianity as more important in my status set. And to me, that's my master status. That's the most important status in my status set. So people can disagree on which is a person's master status. Now, the term role can be a little confusing to students because it kind of sounds like it should be the same thing as status. But think of roles as the expected behaviors for a status. So in your status of student, you have different roles. Certainly attending class, hopefully reading your textbook, doing your homework, taking tests. All of those are roles for the status of student. In my status as teacher, the role set, in other words, all the roles that go with the status of teacher, specifically a full-time teacher at the community college where I teach, are not just to teach, but there's a whole lot of preparation involved in teaching. There's grading, there's going to lots of meetings, and then often before class, after class, in my office, I'll help students. Those are some of the roles in the status set of being a teacher, or at least for me being a teacher. Now, the term role conflict means conflict between the roles for two or more statuses. I'm going to show you some role conflict in my life. But more importantly, I want you to think about the role conflict in your life. The older you get, the more statuses you have, the more responsibilities you have in your life, the more role conflict there will be. For example, being a teacher conflicts with being a dog mom and a cat mom. My teaching day often starts at 7:30 when I'm on campus. I have to make sure that my dog is walked and fed very early in the morning, and then again as soon as I get home from work. Although I'd like to be walking her in the middle of the day, I can't because it conflicts with my status of being a teacher. Being a daughter to my parents conflicts with being a teacher. My parents are elderly, they're in their 80s, and they live 1,300 miles away. So I see them during school breaks. I'm in contact with them every day, but it's very hard for me to just drop everything and go unless it's an emergency because those two statuses have conflicts. The role of being a teacher, in other words, teaching, and the role of being, or the status of being a daughter with the role of helping taking care of my elderly parents can be in conflict many times. Similarly, my fiance lives at the other end of the state, about 6 hours away. So while I'd like to see him every day, I can't. I only see him a few times a month because we live so far apart. So the status of being a fiance and the status of being a teacher have role conflict. In other words, teaching and being with my fiance, there's conflict there. And so in most of our lives, there's constant role conflict. Certainly for those of my students who are parents, they often have role conflict where there might be a sick child or a child without childcare on a certain class day. And you have to choose which role am I going to perform. And certainly for most of my students who are parents, the child comes first because the role of taking care of that child is just as, if not more important than the behavior, the role of coming to class in their status as a student. The concept of role strain is similar, but this is where there's tension or conflict among the roles for a single status. So again, remember I told you that the role set for being a teacher was to teach, to do preparation for class, to grade, to go to meetings, to help students. And there's often role strain between all of these different responsibilities. I laugh when I think about some of the times I've been in a meeting with my boss. Now, he's the guy who writes my evaluation, but he'll look at me, look down and look at my watch, and he'll laugh because he'll know that I need to get to class. And in my mind, getting to class on time is more important than talking to him. Fortunately, my boss agrees that teaching comes before meetings, so I can cut a meeting short and go ahead and head to class. But there's certainly role strain there. I know for my students, sometimes there is role strain in their status of being a student, that they may need to study for one course, write a paper, or do a project for another course. So this is another example of role strain. Again, think about the statuses, their roles, the role strain, and the role conflict in your life.